There's dismay tonight after the plug was pulled halfway through a flagship regeneration scheme. In Stoke-on-Trent, 1,800 homes have been demolished, with 500 built and 1,400 refurbished. In Sandwell, 400 homes have been built and 9,000 refurbished, with almost 1,000 homes demolished, leaving some areas barren landscapes. According to a government statement tonight, it's now up to local councils to determine their own needs. But where will the money come from? Liz Copper has been investigating.
The hope was millions of pounds would transform these communities. The fear is these streets in Stoke-on-Trent could look like this for years to come.
It's shocking, really. You know, it's been a disappointment to everybody, hasn't it? You know, I mean, how they've knocked the houses down, you know, here, there and everywhere, and left the odd ones up. It's just like Beirut in the area at the moment. You know, it's disgusting.
The city at the moment is looking diabolical. It's embarrassing, I find, anyway.
It's very annoying because they don't care about anybody, only themselves. It's people doing stuff on paper and not thinking about communities. They've destroyed communities and businesses.
And the dismay from families living here has been echoed by their MP, who wants a meeting with ministers.
I absolutely regret some of the elements of the Renew scheme, but you don't knock down streets and communities without then following up with the construction. And the government has betrayed the city in terms of what it's doing now.
New homes have been built here, but they stand alongside dereliction. The government says in the future, funding to regenerate these areas will come through its newly formed local enterprise partnerships. It says it wants to draw on expertise from the private sector. But in West Bromwich, there's scepticism over whether that approach will work. Long-term plans have been put on hold indefinitely.
You've got a massive need for housing, you've got a long waiting list for housing, massive competition, different ethnic groups, different needs of housing. You've got older people who are homeless along with young families. So, you know, where do we go from here?
The challenge for local authorities now will be to attract developers to buy and build on this land.
We need to look at innovative public-private partnerships to unlock the land and to develop them. It's just a different way of approaching things, a different way of doing things, without relying too much on public sector funding.
Families here were told their homes would be improved dramatically. They face a wait to see whether those ambitious plans will come to fruition. Liz Copper, BBC Midlands Today, Stoke-on-Trent.
Well, we're joined now by Mike Wolfe, former elected Mayor of Stoke-on-Trent. Thanks very much for joining us this evening. Could you put this into perspective for us? How significant was Renew and how significant is today's announcement?
I think, sadly, Mary, Renew is going to be seen as one of the great disappointments of the decade. This was the biggest single government capital grant ever to the city of Stoke-on-Trent, and really it's been squandered on consultants, on bureaucrats, and worst of all, as your contributors have already said, on just demolishing homes with no rebuilding, so creating these gashes on the landscape, particularly round about the city centre. That isn't to say, however, that you can leave it like that and that it's a good thing that government has stopped it, because clearly they shouldn't have stopped it, because we've got to get out of this mess that we're in.
Well, the government says that without this money, the private sector can step in and fill the gap. Do you agree?
Well, that's just fantasy land. If we were talking about London, then the private sector might step in, because obviously you can make a lot of profit building houses there. There isn't profit to be made. In Stoke-on-Trent, you still have to pay as much to build properties as you would have to in wealthier places, but you can't sell them for as much. So actually, there isn't profit to be made. Without this gap funding, the funding that you get from subsidies from government, there won't be new homes in Stoke-on-Trent.
So just finally and briefly, if you would, how big a body blow is this for Stoke and where does it go from here?
I think it's a very, very serious body blow. It's got to move on with imagination. I'm worried that the local enterprise partnership, that's the body that's supposed to be taking it forward, is just going to be the same old faces. We'll go on with the same old consultants and we'll be the same old failure. If it is, we will be in really serious trouble.
OK, Mike Wolfe, many thanks for joining us this evening.
Other news now.